Hey guys, welcome back. This is the third video in a series where we actually build using Selenium and Python something that logs into Instagram and checks the discrepancies between your followers and following, shows you who's not following you back, somebody that you do follow. So we went through basically getting Selenium set up. We installed it. We got logged into Instagram. We found our way to the profile page, and now we just need to do the hardest part yet, which is actually click the button and get all of the following, then click the button and get all of the followers, compare the two lists, and then tell the user who does not follow them back. Now, just to save us a little bit of time, you saw how I was going to the CSS part of doing the inspect tab and finding unique CSS to select different buttons. It gets fairly tedious and it's not fun to watch. So for the rest of this, I've just included them here. We've got the followers CSS. This is going to be the button that will bring up the followers dialog, the people that follow you. The CSS select close. This is just the close button on that dialog. The following CSS is the same thing as the followers. This is just people that you are following. And the button for closing will be the exact same. So, I mean, we've already set up this function, which is the majority of our code, right? This click button with CSS is a godsend. Really, all we have to do in a general sense is this. We need to click the followers button. Then we need to, Then we need to click the close button. And then we need to click the following button. And here we need to get followers list equals get followers from list. We haven't written this function yet. We will write it. And following list, right? This is all we have to do in some sense. But you know what? We could be even more clever than this. We could say get usernames, we'll say, from dialog, because the following and the followers dialog is going to be the exact same. So this gives us a bit of code reusability. And once we implement this function now, we have everything we need to determine the discrepancies. So let's write this function. Remember how I told you can use CSS selectors and XPath selectors? Well, the only way I could find to actually select all of the things inside this dialog was using XPath. It's not something I use often, but just playing around with this for a long time, it was the only way I could determine to do it. And I think somebody even suggested it in a Stack Overflow. So here I've got the XPath for that dialog. Basically what this is going to do is it's going to select this dialog div, and then it's going to select all of the list elements that are a part of that. And then, of course, I'm going to do this WebDriver wait, which is what we've done before. It's the exact same thing, but now we're going to say presence of element located, right? Not clickable, but presence of element located, and by XPath. So that's the difference between what we did before and what we do now. And then, of course, just the list XPath. Now, something else that we need to do is we need to make sure all of the elements are in that dialog. So we need to scroll down. Now, this function, again, scroll down does not exist. Let's assume it exists, and then we will we'll write it later. Cool. List elements equals driver.find element by XPath. Elements, by the way, by XPath. List XPath. So this is going to get us a list of all of those elements. Okay, great. Now it's got this popped up, right? It's got the dialog popped up. That's exactly what we want. I want to select every single person here, right? And I want to get their username. Now, one thing I noticed is that there are a few, I don't know exactly where they are. There's a few list elements in here that don't actually correspond to people. At least that's what I noticed last time I ran this. And so in order to get around to not including them in the list or, messing up the list in any way, shape, or form, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select only rows with the word follow. Now you might say, well, Jason, some of them say following, not follow. Well, that's okay. All I'm going to do is check for the presence of the word follow. And of course, the word follow is a subset of the word following. So I'm going to grab all the rows that have the word follow in them, and then I'm going to select their usernames. For I in range the length of list elements. So we're going to go through each list element. We're going to grab the text for that element equals list elements at I dot text. This is going to give us the text for that element. If follow in row text. Now let's get the username. So this is what I discussed. If follow is in that row text, then what I want to do is select the username. So row text. Now this is a selector in Python. I'm just going to use it, and we can talk about it later if you guys need some more help on it. All this is going to do is this is going to say get the index of the new line character and get me everything from the beginning to the index of the new line character. This is basically saying that. Now there's a possibility that this new line character doesn't exist. It might throw an error. So that's why I wrapped it in this try block, and we'll catch it in the case that this throws an error. Users plus equals username. Whoops. Plus equals username. This is basically just how you add to a list in Python, except, and we're going to say print continue. I don't know if this even is a case anymore, but it just happened before when I ran it. This is another reason that you should really make these scripts your own, add something new to them, because when you're just writing code, you would not think to do this try catch block. You would not think that every single, that there might be some rows in there that aren't actually followers. These are things that you have to do. You have to run the code to actually tell. So this is one of those cases. So look, I'm adding everything to this users list. I haven't defined this users list. Let me define it. It's an empty list. I am adding to it each time the username, and then I'm returning the users. Now we still haven't implemented this scroll down function, so that's what we're going to do next. So we're going to do a while function here, while one or while true, and we are going to have an iteration, iter equals 0, and while true, I guess you could just say while one. So this is going to be counting this global count. This is a bit of a hack, but I'm going to throw it up here and we're going to talk about it. Basically, this is a global variable, and we're going to be checking it as we do things here. So scroll top num equals iteration times 1000. So we might need to keep scrolling, right? We might need to scroll like 5 or 6 or 20 times. So what we're going to do is we're going to, on a loop, we're going to scroll a little, scroll a little, scroll a little, until when we scroll another time, the count doesn't change. When I say there's 50 users in this list and I scroll, and then I say, okay, 55 users, then I scroll again and there's still 55 users. That means that there was no one else in the list because I kept scrolling and there was nobody else. The list capped out at 55. I guess another cool thing you might be able to do is use this number here, 49, and actually just look for 49 elements. I hadn't considered that, but that's another approach that might be worth investigating. So iter plus equals 1. Of course. You don't have to write every line of code yourself. There is this thing that I found on Stack Overflow that's going to execute some JavaScript that's going to scroll down the dialog box. I didn't know how to do it, but look, you can just say driver.execute script, and this will let you execute JavaScript, which is pretty cool. Document.query selector. This is going to select that list. .parent node.scroll top, and you can set that scroll top to any number. Scroll top num, look, that's the number that we're kind of building up as we go, and that's why I turned it into a string here, which might have seemed confusing before. But let's say we're on iteration 10, that's 10 times 1000. We turn that into a string, and it's going to plug that into here, and so that number is going to grow each time. Whoops. And now we're going to do another try. Web driver wait. Driver for 1 second. Dot until. Check difference in count. Now we haven't written this function either, but what this is going to do is this is going to say, you remember how we talked about that global variable? This is going to be the one that says, okay, is there a difference between what we had, the count of things there before and the count of things this time? So wait until check difference in count. And then what we're going to do is just write this except clause, which says count equals 0, reset the count, and break. So this is going to throw if if there's not a difference in the count, which means that we've reached the end. So of course we reset by resetting the count variable and breaking the while loop, so we don't get stuck here forever. And then you can type return if you'd like. It's up to you. All right, now let's write this check difference in count function. This is the last big function. We're almost there, guys. It's the last big function you have to write. Check difference in count. Again, we're going to access this global count variable. Good. So basically, we're going to do some check. So we're going to have to actually scrape the dialog box to find the current count, the current number of list elements there, and that would be here. New count equals driver.find elements by xpath, and then there's more xpath. I think this is the exact same xpath as before, so you might want to put this in a variable at the top or something. Driver.find elements by path. Make that a constant. And then we just get the len of that. And now what we're going to say is if the new count is different, if new count is different than count, what we're going to do is return true. And if it's not different than count, what we'll do is we'll return false. If count does not equal new count, count equals new count. So we're going to reset the new count, right? It was 50 and now it's 55. And then we're going to return true. And then else we return false. Jason, why does this throw an exception is probably your next question, right? Because here we have it throwing an exception. Well, basically, if the condition here, if this, whatever is in this until statement, if that condition ever returns false, it throws an exception because it said, hey, that condition wasn't met. So that's kind of a big deal here. I'll throw an exception for you. So we're kind of taking advantage of that by returning false on purpose if we know that we have reached the end of this list. And this can be used for both lists, right? Which is really cool, really exciting. Now we can undo this, scroll down function. Now we can actually use that scroll down function. So now what's going to happen is it's actually going to log in, scroll down. It's going to find all of the users in this username. It's going to return it. And this is get users from dialog. Oh, we should probably fill in some of the parameters here. Driver. Is that the only one I need? I think that's the only one I need. And what that should do is, oh, I need to pass that in too. Driver and driver here too. And what this will do is this will give us the two lists. Let me just go ahead and run that and see that it's working. You know what? Let me print the list and then we'll do it. Print followers list and following list. Okay, I think I've got a little bit of wrong code here. So I click the button followers CSS and then I grab the followers. Then I click the button close and I tried to grab the followers. That doesn't make sense. We need to include this here. So then I click the button close and then I click the button for following. And just to be extra safe, what I'm going to do is put a little sleep in here to give that time to load up the dialog. There are better ways around that. Of course, you can use that WebDriver wait that we talked about. I highly recommend you optimizing by doing that. But let's just do this. It's quick and it's lazy and it's late. Okay. There we go. Opened up both of them. Get user from dialog. Oh, passed in one too many parameters there. I'm going to get kicked off Instagram soon. I've run this a few more times than I expected to. They're going to catch on to something at this point. And I'm not connected to a VPN or anything. I didn't take any of my advice that I gave you guys. So, all right, there you go. Now we printed all of them. That's perfect. We got both lists, we printed them, and that's it. Like that's 90% of the way there. Then it's a small little algorithmic programming thing to say, all right, now look at the people I'm following, or look at the people I am following and check if each of those people is in the list of people that follows me. It's a really simple programming exercise. Here I've called it no follow back. How did I do it here? So I got both lists. I passed them in here to this no follow back function, and then I just print it. I'm gonna just copy this list over, or this function over, because it's super simple. This is definitely not the most optimal way to do it, but all I'm doing is I'm saying sort both lists, then make a no follow back list, go through each person that I follow and see if they're in the list of people that follows me. And if they're not, if I get a value error from doing this, because this index, what it does is it says what index that a certain element is in an array. It'll say value error, this element is not in this array. And that's perfect. What that tells us is that person is not following us. And so then we just throw them in the no follow back list and then we return it, and that's it. And so I could call this no follow back with the following list. Following list. No, followers. And the following. And then you have it. You could just print it. I mean, if you want to get fancy with it, no follow backs. There you go. Just print it if you want to get fancy with it. I think over here, yeah, I printed out line by line to make it a little bit prettier. I always do that. This is the no follow backs list. One thing I don't like about Python is that it took running that entire thing to tell me that the variable name was not defined. Something that but it's something that other programming languages would tell you at runtime. And it gets a little frustrating, but that's scripting languages, right? So let's see. There we go. These are the people that don't follow me back. And there you go. Now you have it. Now something that you can put on your resume using Python, using Selenium, and completely coded here. What I would do if I were you is add a little tweak. There's a few optimizations in here I kind of mentioned along the way. I highly recommend that you do some of those optimizations. And also, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. We do content like this all the time. We're trying to help you get your next internship here at Tech Intern, and getting really cool programs on your resume is one of the ways that we do that. So Thank you guys so much. Again, don't forget, like, subscribe. I will see you in the next episode.